So this week is our review. We're going to review the shadows and the passions. And I typed up a cheat sheet. If anyone wants it, I'll email it to you. Um, just a little tiny review of what each of them is. Uh, so you can use it in your meditation, maybe, something like that. So uh, that'll be available. And then next week, we're going to start um, a new series. It'll be 4 parts, and the new topic is going to be healing. So I don't think if you're not sick, you don't need to come. It covers every aspect of healing. And the fact is that we heal from everything in our life. And by the time something hits our body, we needed healing long before then. So it's going to cover what is healing, um, healing in all the areas of our life and personality and emotions, how to approach healing as a daily event in your meditation and in your uh, relationship with spirit. So it is not about if you're sick, you're going to get better. You might. It's about everything, how our mind works, how much power we have, and not just physically, but in our lives, and then healing from our life up to this point. So it will be fun. So the first, just the first shadow of the 7 was pride or hubris. And we talked about it being the competitive aspect of us against them. Um, the hubris part triggers in with the fear of humiliation. Um, it comes in with sayings like, I'm not good enough, I don't fit in. Um, the shadow speaks to us in ways that cause us to lose personal dignity and reverence for our life. We have then the experience of looking at life, the glass is half empty. We can become ashamed of a crisis, a loss of job, family, a financial crisis, or a sickness, Um, the questions, how could this happen to me? Oh, I'll never get better. Um, person can lose sight of a future of hope for anything new. And what others think becomes the focus in life, and and wondering what others are going to think of me will then dictate everything that the person does. This one for me, and we're going to open it up to share at the end if anybody wants to share an experience you had with any of these, but or not, like it's just up to you. But for me, the I came face to face with the reality as soon as I started this study of that I was feeling ashamed of being sick and of my body because I've had my entire life, my body has carried me, my fitness, my strength, my health, my entire practice was a physical practice pretty much. My enjoyment was in running and sports and yoga and weightlifting. Gave me a lot of joy, and I felt that if my body, if I kept it really super strong, it would protect me from harm. And when I got COVID and it lingered, to just now is leaving for over a year, year and a half almost. I really struggled with why am I not getting over this, and I felt badly about my body and ashamed that I got sick and why did it let me down. And I didn't even realize it was such a subtle shadow that I didn't even understand that it was running in the background, that way in my life. And I got the revelation because I went out for a walk and I got stuck and I had to call Uber to drive me home. And so when I got home, Yellen and I talked it through. And it was an enormous revelation. And honestly, from that point forward, I began to improve. And over the course of this study, I am being returned to health. And I tried everything. And I gave up trying and I started focusing on where is the energy hemorrhaging from. And it comes through these shadows, right? So that's my story with that. The opposite side of pride, hubris, is reverence. And the grace of reverence is it gives us the ability to hold our entire life, everything and everyone that's come across it, through it, as if it has all been sacred, and all that travel with us are sacred. And this makes up the reverent gift of our life as individuals. Reverence for all life because it is all divine and all one creative, beautiful force. So we are all connected. What I do affects you. What you do affects me and others. We may not see it, but energetically, we're feeding into the energy internet all the time. So, practicing reverence, and this one is really good to sit down and feel reverence, and look at your life, and is everything? Can I see everything as reverent? And all the people in my life that have touched my life somehow, can I see them as reverent? Give them reverence. Uh, it's a really beautiful grace. And when we can practice it regularly, it really opens the door to seeing everything in our world with more clarity and understanding. The second shadow was greed, avarice, and examples of greed are intellectual greed, stuff greed. You just can't get enough of stuff. You have to have new stuff, the latest stuff, so much stuff that we have to get a storage to keep the stuff because our house is full of stuff. Attention greed, needing to be the center of attention, to have attention, to be paid attention to all the time. Affection greed, I need to have affection in order to feel good about myself. The need to be first. Substance greed, food, whatever it is. Control greed, needing to be in control of everything and everybody, so that we feel that we're in control of it and nothing's going to catch us by surprise. The greed of being right. We have to be right. Even if we're wrong, we have to be right. Greed, avarice competes with common sense. It makes you do what you would not normally do. Greed is fully irrational when triggered at its fullest. Coveting or desiring anything so much that it drives your life out of balance, which is how you end up doing things you wouldn't normally do. Greed shows up as passive aggressive, not supporting, not giving your all, hurting another through petty criticism, withholding goodness from another. It says this person, in my opinion, is not part of the divine plan as I see it. So I will tear them down, or I will withhold joy over their success. We've learned is all of these sort of subtle little shadows that go through. The grace that sits opposite that is piety. And piety, the grace of piety in our life seeks to see the divine in others and ourselves. It seeks to see the divine hand in all things. Piety does not separate one from the whole to serve the ego, which is what happens when we're cutting somebody down to make ourselves lift up. So practicing again, seeing the divine in others, and others that aren't necessarily in your inner circle, but others that you pass on the street, others that you know read about, see, that wouldn't normally be in your sacred circle, but would you might cross in life, to be able to look at another human and say this person is divine. Also, it has nothing to do with behavior. It has everything to do with, we are all cut from the same cloth. Some people don't know it yet, or they're making another choice, or they're growing like crazy, and what you're seeing is it was a lot of growth. The next shadow is luxury. It is the self-entitlement, in the realm of the senses or the sensuality realm. So the self-entitlement is to make choices when we're fully aware that the consequences will harm another person. When our motivation is that someone will suffer because of our choices and we want them to suffer. For example, gossip, embellishing the truth, adding or subtracting details from the conversation to make you look better or to make you look justified, to make them look less than. Bullying falls into this category. Basically sacrificing the innocent to serve the ego's need to be first. Never going to be pretty. Self-entitlement says I'm entitled to have no struggle in life. I'm entitled to have only success. I'm entitled to no hardship, to no failures, to no sickness, to have electricity. I'm entitled to clean water. I'm entitled to justice. I'm entitled to be treated fairly, to be served first. I'm entitled to be spoken to in a certain way. I'm entitled to this house, this neighborhood. I'm entitled because I have suffered. I'm entitled to something because I've endured pain. I'm entitled because I've survived something. I'm entitled to heal on a quick time schedule because I'm doing steps. It causes us to diminish the sanctity of our own life. And all of the entitlements that we have are the lenses. And this is so important. That is the lens that we're looking at our life through, is these entitlements. So that's how we are looking at other people. We are looking at our life circumstance. We're looking at, this is the lenses that we're looking through. And in everything in life, if you're walking a road, there's going to be bumps. Grace helps us navigate the bumps, helps us sometimes avoid the bumps, right? But in order to grow, and get to our character and find out what's going on and develop on our soul's journey and into our beautiful life, there has to be some transformation taking place, right? There has to be something that challenges how we are being, because we forget who we are. We have forgotten that we're divine. We have forgotten because when we got here, we began to get overlaid with concepts and beliefs and perceptions about life. And that then becomes the lens that we're looking at life through. So oftentimes we don't get it unless there's, oh, we have a breakup, or, you know, I really wanted to start this business and it wasn't successful the first time, and then it was the second time, but you learned something. That doesn't mean anything about us. That means that we're moving in life and we're taking life by the horns and we're trying to do something with it, right? It doesn't mean that anything about us, that we're some sort of a failure. It means we're alive and doing something with ourselves. That's what that is. So, um, luxury is um, is what we're taught. It comes through teaching, and it comes through really fear. I don't want the other thing, so I deserve, and I'm entitled to this because we think it'll come, and the opposite won't. But grace has a way of making us listen. Having us listen. Nothing's inflicted on us. We do that to ourselves. But if we're not in grace, we're more likely to stumble than we are to move in a wise decision. So the opposite of luxury, the grace that sits opposite, is understanding. And the grace of understanding lifts us beyond our small self. It lets us see beyond the lenses and beyond the small scope that we're looking at life through. It lifts us beyond our small self, and it allows us to forgive without needing to know why something happened to us. It allows us to elevate beyond our small mind, right? It allows us to see our lives as a small part of eternity and to hold us and all in reverence. It allows us to absorb the pain and return compassion, not retaliation. Because we understand what lives in one lives in all. There's not those bad people and us good people. What resides in one of us, it lives in all of us because we are one. We're either developing and evolving away from the shadows and into grace, or we could quite possibly be feeding the shadows, which produces uninteresting behavior. So the next shadow is wrath, anger, and anger that is self-directed. So anger justifies everything. When we feel wrath, we are actually fighting love. So if you feel wrath, everyone has wrath, everyone has anger, then we're fighting against love. Love, we can call out for understanding so that we can return. But what we don't understand, we don't retaliate, but we return love instead, and compassion. It shows up, wrath shows up as mental arguments with others. You're having a mental conversation, you're telling them off, you're winning, you're reliving it, you're cutting them down, you're whatever you're doing. That all creates energy. I was reading a book, this was a while ago, and this lady was struggling with not being able to progress herself in her work. And the guy who was counseling her, he said, well, because she was like, it's all my boss, blah, he doesn't appreciate me. And he asked her, on your way to work, as you're walking to work, what are you thinking about? She's like, I'm having a conversation in my head with him about how unfair he is and this, that, and the other thing. And he said, you're putting the energy out there and then you're receiving back. So instead, she turned it around and she was like, he's appreciating my effort. He's rewarding me for my contribution. And it began to change rapidly. So where we're living in our thoughts definitely puts out energy and pulls back. Just because it's not coming out of your mouth doesn't mean it's not known and seen. So mental arguments, as we talked about before, cancel culture, jumping on board and canceling this and canceling that to be part of the wave of whatever is happening, whoever's idea it was. Prejudice. Uh, some people are deserving of love and some are not. These thoughts and attitudes, thinking that we know more about life than we actually do. We don't know anything. It's enough to know our own life and move it in a direction. What is the balancer of wrath is fortitude. So fortitude is the strength to bear up calmly because we know who we are, the strength to endure, the strength to believe something nobody else believes. You know that you know that you know you can receive a healing of whatever it is. And people are like, no, you can't. The strength to believe that until it follows through and manifests. That's fortitude. Fortitude says, give me the grace to go through whatever transformation I'm going through right now, whatever it is, whatever struggle, hardship, dark night of the soul it is. Give me the grace to go through it. Not, why is this happening? Why is this happening? The next passion is, or shadow, glutton, spiritual gluttony. So, spiritual gluttony, glutton for punishment, the manner in which we talk to ourselves, about ourselves, how we see the world, what we indulge in when we are in a dark space. So, thought forms. No one loves me. I never get a break. There's no one to help me. Indulging negative thoughts, indulging in negativity continuously, continuing to make bad choices that create poison in us. Anything that affects our inner tranquility and well-being is a gluttony, spiritual gluttony. You're overdoing it. 24-hour news. We talked about that. We can get information without saturating. Can you keep your well-being, your inner tranquility? What's pulling you out of your sacred space? The opposite grace to that is counsel. Counsel takes a mystical truth and puts it into practical terms. So it's the invocation of clarity. So we can call out for counsel. Counsel me about me so that I can move through this with grace and move past this in my life. The next shadow, the last shadow, is envy, having an envious mind, an envious creative center, and an envious reasoning center. So out of this envious activity come dark strategies and dark actions towards ourselves and others, and creating out of inferiority and deception. It's basically saying my life isn't good enough, my life is inferior, and I need to have your life, have something you have, someone you have, etc. The grace that sits opposite that is knowledge or gnosis, and it is the sacred inspired knowledge of the secret mysteries of God. It is knowing beyond knowledge. Grace infuses the knowledge that we have with knowing. It is inspired. All of these graces are inspired. None of them can be well, you could try to act it out, but it won't have any power in it. But the grace comes with inspiration. It comes because it is our divine nature and it is divinity moving in our life, right? And the sacred inspired knowledge, as we evolve and grow, as we begin to see who we are, understand our divinity, understand what we are as divine beings, then we open to knowledge and inspired knowledge, right? We begin to see ourselves how we are, and we begin to see clearly, this is the path for my life. This is the, how I'm going to share what's here for me to share, whatever it is. That have been mysteries will become clear. It's like the first we see dimly and then face to face, to quote in the Bible. But it's, the mud in the water clears enough for us to see ourselves in the pool in our soul, instead of looking through these lenses of concepts and ideas that wreak havoc in our life, first, and quite possibly in the lives of others. So we also learned, which is not a grace or a passion or dark shadow, but I wanted to just touch on again, on repentance. So we learned that repentance is a change of the way we're thinking. It's not, oh, I'm sorry I did this thing, forgive me for it. It is, we're changing our mind about something, which then we take responsibility within ourselves, our own soul. Uh, when we see the power of our words and our actions on the people, planet, and all of life, when we see that we're walking in a shadow, we repent, we change our mind about it and decide to walk in the grace of it. I need to evolve, I need to release and let go. There's no condemnation in any of this. To shift away from how we're being and shift into grace is repentance in action. So we're changing our thought process, which changes our emotions and changes our actions. So as we're shifting, looking, we're gaining understanding, we're getting inspiration. We know that there's strength in grace, which is the spirit, just another way of having the relationship, a very productive and very active way to be engaged with divinity in your own life, with your own life, right? Is what all this lessons is. So then we take a hold of the tool. I need to make a change. I need to change my thoughts. Doesn't matter how or why you got them. The important thing is that you got an aha moment. This is unhealthy for me and anybody else. This is not good for my energy. This is not good for my life moving forward. Now that I see it's not healthy, good, or beneficial to me, then I'm gonna make a decision to change. And the strength for that decision is going to come through grace. How should I behave instead? How should I think instead? So, uh, and then grace provides the pause all the time in every situation. The pause gives us a chance to choose grace or shadow. Either way, it's a growing process. No condemnation, no guilt, no shame. That's human. That we created that with our ego. When kids learn to walk and they fall down, they get up, they fall down, they get up. You don't beat them and cast them out of your house. You encourage them. You encourage them. Take smaller steps, smaller bites, chew, swallow. We're not treated any less than our best. We can only think of what our best would be, but there's so much more. It's all love. It's love that's waiting to move us along the path of life so that collectively we're making a change on this planet and moving in our potentials, which brings us joy. Brings us joy. So that is the review of these fun guys. If anyone wants to share any thoughts or if it was easy or hard or beneficial, you don't have to give details. Details about our life are really important to us only. I'm gonna wait.
I feel it was really beneficial and also hard. And I'm in the middle of a lot of stuff right now, but it's kind of really exciting too.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it is hard and it's ongoing. Like you'll become familiar with the graces and familiar and you'll think, oh, I got this, and you'll be going through your life and you'll be, oh my gosh, there's this where'd that lurking thing come from? And because we're evolving, we're transforming. We don't transform all at once, we just transform past today.
I agree with you, Elena, that it was very helpful, and I learned a ton, and I can see myself in circumstances like all of a sudden the shadow appears. But I can recognize it now, and I didn't recognize it before. And so when you can recognize it, then you can turn toward the grace and you can ask for grace, like you had said before. And it's like you're just more aware. Like I'm just much more aware. It's tough. It's tough to go like to, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like, it's tough because you're changing and you're growing, right?
Yes,
So
and
it's a process, right?
a challenge.
It's not going to be totally easy, and we were never guaranteed that it was going to be easy. But like I said last week, there's no condemnation, like you were saying before. So we can be gentle with ourselves and we can learn. And we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was like that, or I can't believe that I acted like that. But that's the shadow coming through. And you said it's so subtle sometimes. It's just craziness.
The subtleties are crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm learning. I don't know that there's great big huge things like, oh my God, I was so bad. Like it's the more subtle things that I'm finding that are challenging for me. Like, because it challenges me that I have to think differently, and that I need to act differently in order to grow and to evolve. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, and nothing is really that huge anyway. We put weight
You're
on
right.
what we think is big or small, and what's big for one is small for the other. But as long as we're seeing, I'm grateful this isn't me. It's not part of me. It's something that I can move away from.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something built in that I'm living with or something. Like here's a way to look, and here's the tool.
Okay.
And Tom just texted, it's a beautiful roadmap, and
Yeah.
it is.
That's cool.
It's
Did
very,
I miss? Were there 7? Because I thought you only went through 6, and maybe I missed something.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Did I miss one? Is there a secret one?
Weren't there 14? Sloth. Mary Beth just said sloth.
Sloth. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was like, I thought
Thank
that there
you.
was
Oh,
7.
thank you. I had to get a shower. That's why I ran off.
Thank you,
Let's
Mary
do
Beth.
that right now. I'll add it to the.
I'm muting myself.
Okay. To wrap it up. Number 7, sloth. I'm glad you're paying attention. Okay, so sloth is heaven trying to inspire you to get on with your life, and the universe inviting you to move forward and evolve, and you saying, making excuses. Now's not a good time. Maybe later. I need to place demands. I need to know the outcome. I need guaranteed success. I need to see all the steps before I commit to it. Um, uh, I need to. We just said that the opportunity doesn't look good enough. It doesn't seem inspired enough for me. It doesn't seem like it was a divine uh, prompting because it didn't have all of these specialness. I think it should go with a divine prompting. So it's the aspect, the sloth challenges the guidance that we're getting, um, and we'll make excuses about moving forward with it. And sloth is denying that you hear your own inner guidance, telling you to move forward with your life. And there's an enormous difference when you have an inner prompting, when something resonates and you have an inner prompting, you absolutely know it is divinely inspired. There is a difference between that and your brain telling you something, right? Or somebody else telling you something. It doesn't have this, it will not, your spirit will not move with that. So, but it is, if we avoid our inner guidance for a really long time, we can become deaf. It takes more for us to, because we're making excuses and we're blocking. So the voice is still speaking. We've just moved farther away from it mentally. The other side of sloth is wisdom. Uh, and that is our personal spirit in connection with the grander spirit, and the interpersonal connecting with the personal. We can, when we're in grace of wisdom, we can act out of wisdom instead of creating woe in our life. And we can understand what's the wiser course and not the easiest one. And it helps us recognize that the nature of life, it goes on, it goes around and round, people come and people go. And wisdom's nature is to get us to avoid the hardships and the disasters and the problems. It doesn't stop the change from happening, but it tries to make it easier for us so that we can move through it. So listening to wisdom prevents us from making foolish choices. Wisdom is knowledge infused with divine light. And because we can be held captive in our lives by false views, concepts, etc. And it takes wisdom to shine a light on it so that we can see it and recognize it as being a false belief, right? So we get knowledge and we ask for wisdom, and we don't go forward relying on knowledge alone. We can get clarity with wisdom. So that's the last one. I know there's no sloths in the room.
Thank you.
Yes, me, champion sloth.
It takes
I'm working on it.
it takes courage to take our life in hand and take responsibility for it and see it as reverent and begin to see our responsibility in co-creating our life. It takes courage to do that because you know you're going to have to let go of people, places, things, concepts, ideas, and Something has to go for something new to come, right?
Yes.
And as we evolve and change, people move out of our life that no longer are resonating with us. That's okay. That's totally okay. And you know, we're moving. We're in a moving river, not a stagnant pond. You know,
Yay!
so, but we don't. I think we don't really understand that, and we think that the spiritual journey is coming from out there and fused into us, and hopefully we get it or we don't. But we absolutely have a responsibility to show up and communicate and to participate and to understand a shadow and to make a choice. Because every time we do, we increase the amount of room there is in us for our divine nature to shine. And the light that we came here with, the light that we are, begins to flow out and make a difference in our life and in the lives around us, and our the whatever fears were there, there's no place for them anymore, because there isn't any fear and dread and anger and all of this in our divine state. It only exists in our thoughts. What we give life to lives. So giving life to grace will allow grace to have that place in your life, and you get clarity to avoid fear, right? And wisdom to avoid foolish decisions. Like everything we've ever wanted is right here. But it's up to us to show up, spend the time, shine a light on me, shine a light on me, so that I can evolve and become my highest and best, because that will make everything better around me, every life, every person, the planet, etc. So that, my friends, is the end of that series. I'm excited to start the new one. Looking at healing in from a bunch of different angles, in a bunch of different ways, so that we become empowered to seek it out in every aspect of our life.
Can't wait. Ah,
Yeah, so excited.
We're already in it. We're already in it at different stages, but we've never left the line. We've never left the path. Right? If we wander off the path, remember we talked about that. If we wander off and take a side road, when we come back around, we're just going to connect up farther down. So there's no path that you're absolutely going to miss or not miss. Your moment to moment is your path. You are laying it down. There are gifts, there's ideas, there's energy. Each one of us has. What you're doing today may not be what you're doing in 10 years, because we're evolving, we're growing, and everything that we choose is opening us to, like a flower, like the lotus flower, is opening us to grow, to see ourselves more clearly, to walk in more of our divine nature and the power that's within us. So we are all exactly where we should be, and we're headed in the direction we need to go. And if we veer, we'll get steered back. There's no big ditch over there. Be swallowed up by some dragon. So anyway, I love you guys. We're short on time. You all know how to meditate. We will meditate more next time when we come back next week. So I love you. Have a great evening. Have a great week. Keep doing the work, and we'll see you Wednesday.
thank you, Audrey.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you. Thank you.